Hello and welcome to another episode on the Public Global. I am Ajay Prakash. Donald Trump, the 45th and the 47th President of the United States, is back with a bang. And this time around, he thinks that he comes well prepared and he means business. President Trump kicked off his second term by signing a flurry of executive orders aimed at overturning Biden's policies and delivering some of his many campaign promises. Trump may be thinking that he has got everything right this time because he has a mandate from God to reshape America. But then he has to face the earthly powers of the US court, a super thin majority in the Congress, and foreign capitals who may have other ideas. His own citizens have gone to court already against the Birthright Act, which he had done away with. Donald Trump, the showman that he is, it's difficult to understand right now how much of it is rhetoric and how much is going to be reality. For now, it is all rhetoric. Here you can see Donald Trump throwing the pens at his fans in the crowd after he had signed a few presidential orders yesterday. This is something of a first for any president, and I'm sure if Modi ji is watching this, he will run a few tricks from Trump. Two of his executive orders that he signed will affect the entire world. He has signed an executive order directing US withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement all over again. And in a repeat of 2020, he has also taken US out of the World Health Organization. In today's episode, I'm going to discuss about a few of Donald Trump's executive orders that are going to affect us Indians directly. Before I get into the numbers, I like to make a few observations regarding Trump's inaugural speech the other day. Now, if you would have observed, there was a deal of similarity between how Modi speaks and this time how had been speaking. Make America great again. We have Achhe Din Aayenge. Best period of America has just started. We had Amrit Kal, Liberation Day, आजादी हमें 2014 में मिली है. I was saved by God. मैं बच गया when मोदी जी was in पंजाब. बता देना अपने चीफ मिनिस्टर को कि मैं बच के आ गया. Previous governments were corrupt and incompetent. पिछले 70 साल में कुछ नहीं हुआ है. And told me, God saved me for America. Like Modi ji says, that God is directly in touch with him. Trump had borrowed the formula from Modi that when you talk to a crowd, mix up a bit of nationalism with religion and the crowds will love it. But this time around, for some unknown reason, Trump did not call my friend Modi for his inauguration and neither did he call any Hindu priest. During his inauguration, we had a rabbi present, a imam present there, and a Protestant and a Catholic priest. A pandit was missing. Probably that was an indication of things to expect from Trump. All through his election campaign, he has been saying that India charges lot of tariff and he threatens to impose reciprocal tax. Trump has said many times that he will tax all foreign countries and that could be trouble for India and Modi. Among the several executive orders that Trump signed yesterday, I'll touch upon a few here. First one, restoring names that honor American greatness. Now, haven't we seen that in India too? We all remember how Rajpath was renamed to Kartavya Path, how Aurangzeb Road was renamed, and then we go on renaming the names of cities by the dozen. The reforming the federal hiring process and restoring merit to government service, you'll see many government jobs in the US being terminated and people there being replaced by Trump's political appointees so that he can hire and fire them with ease. Again, something that we have already seen in India known as the lateral hiring. Next comes establishing and implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency. Now, that's pretty similar to what we already have in India, and we call it Gati Shakti, where 16 departments have been brought under one umbrella so that they can be monitored more effectively. Then comes America First Policy Directive to the Secretary of State. Now we have something called the one nation theory here, where everything wants to become one, and on top of that, we have a Vishwaguru who goes around the world and advocating this policy. Probably Trump also heard him. And lastly, protecting the American people against invasion. Now, that's a good one. When did you last hear that America was invaded? Probably in the 1700s when the British came to America, or if you call the Pearl Harbor attack of 1941, then probably US was invaded by the Japanese. Probably Trump was referring to aliens because America remains a favorite playground for aliens. And he might have taken this cue from our own Mr. Modi, who has the 56-inch chest, 56 inch ki chhati, and those red eyes, lal lal aankh. Another very important event which probably has gone unnoticed by all of you in all the euphoria of the Trump inauguration is that the National Security Advisor of US, Mr. Jake Sullivan, had visited India on 6th January and met our Ajit Doval. Now, obviously, Ajit Doval was unable to travel to the US pending the warrants which were issued against him. I think, therefore, Trump had specifically sent Sullivan here to India to sort out all pending issues with India before he takes the oath of office. The result of this meeting was that the very next day, India started saying that Vikas Yadav, the prime accused in the Pannu murder conspiracy and who was a raw agent, was actually a rogue agent, which means that he was not listening to the government of India and whatever he did in the US was entirely on his own. What a big betrayal by a government for one of its own agents. But then in the Modi government, anything is possible. Modi hai to mumkin hai. And I am sure you will find Vikas Yadav being handed over to the US authorities very soon. A picture is worth a thousand words, and if Ajit Doval is trying to explain this theory to Jake Sullivan, well, he really feels amused. Second thing which happened after Jake Sullivan's visit was that India turned around 180 degrees. You must have seen these reports in the news in the last 2 days. To avert trade war, India is ready to repatriate its 18,000 illegal migrants from the US. The report from Mint says India is working behind the scenes to appease the Trump administration and avoid a trade war with the US. The two countries have together identified some 18,000 illegal Indian migrants in the US to be sent back home. Identifying people by the Indian government in the US? Really? That's the funniest statement coming from the Modi government again. So, did the government send someone to the US who went around door to door all over US catching the Indians and asking them their documentation? Or was it just the US government who handed over this list of 18,000 people and then Trump comes, he uses it as a weapon against Modi? You take these back, otherwise, I'll increase the tariff. It was not too long ago, just in November last year, when Sri V.K. Sri Kandan, an MP from Congress coming from Kerala, asked a question to the External Affairs Minister. He asked whether it is a fact that the US has repatriated several hundreds of Indians over the past year for trying to enter the US illegally. If so, the details thereof. And the minister replies that as per US government data, a total of 519 Indians were deported. The government did never had any data about illegal migrants within the US. It was the US government who had all along been forcing Indian government to take them back. Trump only came and arm twisted the Indians. So was the number of illegal Indians within the US a real problem for the United States? Well, really not. If you look at this table, the number of illegal migrants by percentage, 32% come from Mexico, 24.5 from Guatemala, 16.9 from Honduras, El Salvador 5.5%, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru. In fact, all the South American countries are listed above India. India comes at the 12th the 12th place. Only 0.6% of the total number of people who have been identified to be deported. And that number is 1.45 million people who are slated for deportation. All this which is happening is as per America First trade policy of Donald Trump, which he signed on January 20th, 2025. The clause which affects India says US shall investigate the causes of our country's large and persistent annual trade deficits in goods as well as the economic and national security implications and risks resulting from such deficits. Just to give you an idea of the trade between US and India, our exports to US are listed here. Last year it was $77.52 billion, marginal decrease from 22-23. India's total exports during that period was $437 billion, which means that the exports to US constitute about 17.7% of our total exports, which is significant. Imports from US have been going up over the last 5 years. Last year, we imported goods from the US worth $42 billion, and the total imports for India during the same period was $678 billion. That means the imports from US constitute just about 6% of our total imports. While last year India's total trade deficit was around $241 billion, it remains a fact that our trade with US is always positive. We had a positive trade balance of $35.3 billion last year. One can add another $100 billion to this figure, which is the trade surplus coming from the services. So the total trade surplus from US for India stands at $130 billion. Now just look at these figures and then you will realize where we stand against the US. In 2023, the United States imported $3.83 trillion worth of goods and services, making it the world's largest importer. And in the same year, US exported goods and services worth $3.05 trillion. There was a deficit of about half a trillion dollars. So Trump is not after India just to save a few cents in trade, and neither US will become less crowded if it throws out 18,000 Indians. Neither the H1B is of any consequence to US. In fact, they need more people there, and neither the birthright is any issue. That's all rhetoric. There is a much larger plan going on behind the scenes, and that, if you had noticed, is that these four gentlemen were called to Washington by the Trump administration, and they were having a series of meetings in the sideline of the Trump inauguration. These are the foreign ministers of Japan, India, Australia, with the Secretary of State of United States. These are all members of the Quad. I think much bigger problems are in store for Modi government in the days to come. If you read between the lines, which were written by the outgoing ambassador to India yesterday, he said, "Picture abhi baki hai." Thank you for watching. I'll again meet you next week.